everyone. I'm here today to talk to you about our nation's youth, specifically pertaining to the lack of student representation in the education decision-making process. Students deserve a voice when it comes to their own education, and the current system in place is neglecting their voice. I'm sure you're all aware of the phrase, taxation without representation. For my speech, I would like to change it just a little bit to education without representation. As I see, it fits better to our time. Both of these situations are analogous, whether it's colonial Great Britain or modern-day school board. Both govern without the consent of the governed. And in our modern-day society, we have dictated that that is inappropriate. So, I propose a small group of juniors and seniors elected by the school board participate in every meeting deciding whether or not to make certain decisions on education, whether it be the slightest change in curriculum, or whether or not to have a standardized test the next year. Students deserve a vote on every decision made about their own life. Now to answer my questions. Is it the truth? I'd like to answer this question in two parts. First, is there actually a lack of student representation across the country? And secondly, is it actually necessary? First, is there actually a lack of student representation? In my research of this topic, I wanted to find an example of a school district that had already implemented such a system and had tangible results. I couldn't find one. This lack of data shows that there's missing student representation across the country. Secondly, is it necessary? Due to my lack of data, I decided that I would go and find my own. I interviewed 103 students at Bradley, and of those 103, 75 of them answered yes when questioned if there was some form of student representation in the education decision-making process, would you work harder as a student? This overwhelming majority cannot be ignored, and the current system in place is neglecting them. Moving on. Is it fair to all concerned? It is clearly not fair to the student involved, as over 70% of the students questioned were pro-representation. And the current education system is not allowing them to exercise their own rights. Next, will it build goodwill and better friendships? Focusing on the goodwill, the students stated that they would work harder, and this increased effort will lead to better involvement and a better overall education experience. Focusing on the relationship side of it, the superintendent and school board are not necessarily the most involved when it comes to the emotions of the modern-day student. These student representatives will have a direct tie back to the student body and their emotions on certain issues. They can then relay this information back to the school board, help swaying decisions in favor of the student body. Not only will it benefit the relationship between the school board and the student, it'll benefit the relationship between the student and teacher. As previously stated, the students said that they would work harder. This increased effort will speed up the pace in the classrooms and allow more information to be covered. And finally, is it beneficial to all concerned? It is undoubtedly beneficial to the student as they will work harder, have more involvement in their education, and have an overall better education experience. But on the contrary, if you're an adult that doesn't think a student can make their own decisions in their own education and are too immature to have control over their own life, you probably will not find student representation beneficial. So, just as our forefathers felt as they needed to separate from the tyranny of Great Britain, I believe the modern-day student desires change in their own education. Student representation is necessary for the furtherment of our own education here in America. So today, I stand before you to incite a revolution, not one of bloodshed and war, but of one of equality and fairness.